As you may know, I am a big fan of the game 4 Against Darkness. It is an old school pen and paper dungeon crawler. There's a strong Dungeons and Dragons red box feel to it. It's a game that you can play solitaire, you can play cooperatively, and mainly I played solitaire. You create a party for a hero, you crawl into some dungeons, kill some monsters, dodge some traps, and collect some treasure. What's not to love? And the main idea in the basic game is that you roll dice on different tables to generate content. The last couple of years or months, perception of time has been weird since the pandemic. Some time ago, they also started releasing expansions for 4 Against Darkness in the form of decks of cards, the size and the shape of tarot cards, and they do different things. In this video, I'm going to show you, to a point, 3 of these decks. One I'm going to show a lot more, one not so much. 2 of these decks are adventures, full adventures that you simply play by drawing cards to generate events and locations instead of rolling on tables. And another one is, and I can show a little bit more of this one, it's a monster deck. So again, instead, and this one basically is not an adventure in itself. It's simply an expansion that can replace a monster table in one of the different sets of 4 Against Darkness that you may be using. Simply, you take this deck of cards, you divide that into smaller decks by type, so we got minions, bosses, and so on and so forth. And say, when you encounter a minion, when you're told that you found the minion, instead of rolling on a table, you draw a card, and there's the minion. When you're told that you found a boss, that you encounter a boss, then you draw a card from the boss deck instead of rolling on the boss table. And the same applies to vermin and to weird monsters. And some of these monsters are pretty weird. So I think that showing you some of these monsters would not be really much of a spoiler, because these sets of monsters don't have a narrative element. And so it's definitely nice to have color illustrations, and for each monster you don't have to go and look for the table, for the correct table, and so on and so forth. It's an interesting variant, a different way of playing the game. The art is also kind of like different styles, and that's a little bit jarring to me. I wish the style was a little more consistent. These two styles really don't have a lot in common, at least to my eye. Oh, that's a minor thing. Again, it's nice to have illustrations and color illustrations for the monsters. It's nice to have something that intuitive. I don't even have to roll on a table. It just booyah happens. I guess you can see the art for the weird monster is also a little weird there. So, so monster deck. A new way of generating monsters for Against the Great Old Ones. Nope, I made a mistake there. 4 Against Darkness. I wonder, why did I mention 4 Against the Great Old Ones? I've heard of that game. I heard good things about it. Then we have 2 adventure decks, and here I'm getting a little shyer because I don't know that I can show much of these to you. I don't want to give you spoilers, but I want to give you a sense of Lamentations of the Marsh Hag and Curse of Castle Ravenstein. These 2 titles, for anybody who is familiar with role-playing games, of course, are full of Easter eggs and homages to beloved games slash adventures modules. And within the adventures themselves, there are other references to classic role-playing games. So the idea is, and I can show this part, is that you play like a regular 4 Against Darkness dungeon, just that each time, instead of rolling on a table, you draw a card. And these cards have multiple functions. You also have cards for bosses and special items that you will draw when instructed. I don't have to show them to you. There you go, I can do this. So I'm not really showing you much. The idea is that each card has a section for for the area that you just discovered. So maybe now, instead of rolling on a table and see what kind of areas I just entered, I draw a card, I look at that part of the card, and now I know there is the corridor with those symbols there. We'll see what those are. And then if I'm generating content for And then after I know what it is, I draw another card and I look at the corridor section if I'm in a corridor, the room section if it is in a room. Suppose it is a corridor, I'm told there is treasure. Then I draw another card and I look at the treasure section. So you have a section for search, special, trap, and combat. There you go. So you can see I'm really shy about spoilers. I don't want to give you any. So, okay, it's a corridor, but I've been looking at it. What's in it? Oh, it's a treasure. What's a treasure? Okay, that's a treasure. Now I'm moving to the next area. Look at the next card. Okay, it's a room. It's totally a room. I swear it's a room. I just found the room. There it is. I found the room. Booyah, I drew that one, I added to my map. Then I draw another card for the content. What is it? Another card for more detail about the content. Oh, I gotta fight, etc, etc, etc. Very simple, very intuitive. Everything is right here. Even as a travel thing, you basically can just carry with you the stats of some heroes. And that's it. And this deck and a couple of dice and you're done. For this adventure specifically, it's an adventure for levels 2 to 4. You're basically trying to catch an evil hag. To do so, you need to collect 5 or more flare tokens. Soon after you start, you'll find out how. You can also collect clues. What is interesting here is the terrain with squares that can be crossed only by succeeding a swimming save. And bog, as I've seen in some of the examples they gave you. Sometimes you're on dry land, so it is simply empty land squares, but sometimes it's boggy, and they have deadly leeches, so if a fight occurs there, the hero rolling 1 on a defense also gets some blood sucked by the deadly leeches. That's for the Lamentations of the Marsh Hag. What does she have to lament about? What is she lamenting about? Maybe that there are heroes trying to kill her? I guess would be a good reason. Curse of Castle Ravenstein. Of course, we get into gothic stuff here. The idea remains the same. Draw a card, look at the section that applies. From time to time, you may find a special item, you may fight a boss. There are 2 bosses here. The story. A lover's quarrel between brothers Gregoire and Ivor Vortigern tragically ended in the death of Lisa. Well, she still died. After dying, while dying, it's unclear, she cursed the Vortigerns, who became fiends. And the region is plunged into darkness. So now we gotta collect the bones, return them to the crypt so that Lisa can sleep a little better and not worry about the 2 monsters that she herself created, by the way. So that's the plot. A little bit gothic fantasy, of course. This time we're exploring, we're looking for a crypt key. And for 3 bones, there will be locations there will be map locations here that may have a bone, just like so. And so, yeah, hooray, we found the bone. Other than that, the idea remains the same, and for the same reason, I'm avoiding spoilers. And you will just generate corridors and rooms, content, treasures, monsters, traps, special events. To me, the special events, but are always the most fun. And there are some pleasantly weird special events here for flavor, for story, for atmosphere. I think I like this one both because of the reference to the classic D&D adventure, of course, but just generally speaking, I like the gothic aspect, which sometimes has a little element of like tongue-in-cheekness here. Again, I can't tell you much, but I can tell you that these are 2 fun adventures. And in general, I just really like this new way of playing 4 Against Darkness. I still enjoy the old way, but this is an interesting variant. So Lamentations and Curse of the Castle Ravenstein. Fun stuff, fun new ways, fun adventures. They will not have infinite replay value, of course, but they're fun to play for a couple of times. The tarot deck of the monsters is also a nice and fun new way of generating monsters. So I've heard that there are more decks that will come out, and then I think it will be really great when you have a pretty thick stack of minions, of bosses, of vermin. Then, well, you really feel like you're exploring a rich, complex, and unpredictable and just interesting fantasy world. So these are new decks for 4 Against Darkness. If you like the game, I think you may enjoy these new expansions for it.